Hi folks, in today's video I'll be reviewing the world building kit from RNW. RNW has a lot of really great stationery and kits for game masters and players. Most of the stuff is geared towards 5th edition, specifically like the stats and conditions, cheat sheets, and the character sheets, and the spell cards, which I got the spell cards for my warlock that I played. But this world building kit is very flexible, very open. You could use it for any kind of system. I think fantasy probably more so, but it also would work well for a sci-fi or modern or any historical setting. So I'm going to just kind of run through a few of my thoughts on a lot of these, and I'll go into depth on the ones that I found especially helpful. There are 7 different subcategories of this kit: history, land, monsters, people and society, religion and organization, session kit, and town and city builder. So in the history section, there are a lot of really good prompts in this section. There are 5 different sheets that give you prompts for like geographical history, the history of the world, military history, and then people that gives like important people or recent events. Next, you have a land category, and in this, I especially like the lay of the land sheet because it gave you prompts for what kind of flora, what kind of animals are common or uncommon in this area, what has been introduced, things that I would not have necessarily thought of, but could potentially come up, and also might help prompt some ideas of like potential encounters your players might have. There's also a great table that you can roll on to generate the world. There's a world overview, as well as a page called The Shape of the Land, which provides prompts for how to build a land, like what important features to have, and stuff like that. So that's especially helpful if you're like coming up with the map, but might also provide some nice prompts. And that's one thing that I think a lot of this world building kit provides, is it provides a lot of prompts so that you're prepared ahead of time and not caught off guard all of a sudden when your players ask about something that you didn't think of. Before I get into the rest of the video, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. So in the monster section, this was one that I did print out and use, and I've got some blank ones that I can show you. So the first one is a creature feature. This is super useful if you have a druid in your group or somebody who has familiars. It's cards that you can fill out for various creatures that your players might need. So it's got like a little spot that you can check off what type it is, like wild shape, familiar, steed, companion, and then the basic stats. So this is especially great. As I said, if you've got a druid in your group, you can put together these cards and then pass them over to your player. You can keep them. You can make a duplicate copy and give another copy to your player. Provide some of those things that, like, in the druid thing, it says your GM will have a list of things, and every time GM's not prepared for that. There's also a monster builder. So this is great to fill in with a monster from the monster manual, or just create your own, and it gives you, I just gave myself a paper cut. It gives you all of the things that you need for it. And, you know, just kind of keeps it in with the rest of the theme of everything. Another useful thing is the Monsters of the Land guide, and I like that there's a, like, random generator thing, gives you some basic info for it. So if your players want to know what kinds of creatures are in the area, or you realize, ooh, I want to throw in a random encounter, you can have a list ready. There's also an encounter manager, and this is one that I filled in and printed off and actually used in the homebrew. This is also in the session kit portion of it. This is super helpful. This is one of the sheets that I used the most because it gave a really nice overview of each encounter. I like having all of the hostile creatures. This is actually where I often kept track of like the health, as well as like any stats or stuff like that, or conditions, not stats, that was affecting the creature. I also really appreciate the environment, monster strategies, and loot area. The environment and strategies are 2 things that oftentimes get overlooked, but can make your encounters much more interesting. Then it goes on to a people and society. This has a lot of, like, there's an NPC builder, and then NPC cards. Both of these are not going to be a stand-in for a character sheet if you're going to have an NPC that is going to be engaged in combat or have a lot of special abilities, but they're enough, like especially with these cards and the larger NPC sheet, that you can keep track of a lot more of like the appearance and behavior and what that NPC knows on these sheets. So, if you're trying to remember, shoot, they're going back and talking to the head of the guard in this town, Robin. How did Robin look? How did they act? Gives you all of that info. And then you do have the basic stats, so if you need to make some kind of skill check, it's all there. There's a people and customs guide, as well as society guide and relationship web. These are all things that provide really good prompts as you're building the world. I did not use them quite as much as the campaign continued on, but I definitely appreciated them to help me build out all of the world of my homebrew. But the NPC list is one of the most useful sheets in this packet. I actually have 2 here from my campaign, and it's just a sheet that breaks down the location, what are the NPCs in that location, and very basic info. But what I really liked about this and how I found it really helpful was I kept this up whenever my players were in a location, and as they ran into new NPCs and I kind of created off the fly, like, oh, they talked to this town guard that I wasn't anticipating them to, or they went and found a blacksmith and I didn't necessarily have a blacksmith character sheet already. I could write in their name, the basic info about them, so that I remembered. And then if I decided, yeah, I think this NPC might come back a little bit more, I could go and fill out one of those character cards or sheets and flesh out the character a little bit more. But this gave me a really quick list. It also was very useful when my players were in a location and they were trying to remember, wait, who did we talk to here? Who's the store clerk here? I could just very quickly look through this rather than having to shuffle through a bunch of different sheets. The religion and organization section is another one that's really great as you're building out the world. It gives you a lot of good prompts for establishing a religion. I did use these sheets when I was coming up for the religion of Talarn, which was my homebrew world, as well as the organization has like a random name generator and another sheet that provides a lot of prompts for things that you should think of as you're building the organization. The town and city builder is another one that has a lot of really good prompts. There are a couple of random name generators, both for a city as well as tavern, because, taverns are important, especially in D&D. There's a map grid, which may or may not be useful for you, but it is nice having something that's still in the same style if you want to keep that aesthetic quality to all of your notes. The town builder and town checklist are very helpful in the prep build up to a campaign or to a session. It just gives you a lot of those good prompts. The checklist has either you can use that as inspiration or you can roll on a random table to fill in all of those different things. And I like that it's broken down in a few different categories. So that way you don't have your party arrive in a town and you realize, I forgot to make a place that has supplies. And yeah, this is a town that should have a place for supplies. You'll at least have a name for it and maybe a few things to think of ahead of time. And especially if you have a campaign that's traveling quite a lot, you can roll on that and maybe one town does have a blacksmith, but the other town doesn't. It provides a little bit of variety to the different locations in your campaign. They aren't all going to have every single thing checked off that list. Now on to the part of this world building kit that I used the most, and that's the session kit section. The first sheet in this kit is a campaign brief. This is a really handy, just quick overview of the campaign, and I think it's also something that would be great to give to your players during the first session or session 0, because it kind of gives all of those things that the players are going to want to know. There's a sheet of quest hooks. I never actually printed this out, but I could see this being really useful to just have a list of quest hooks in your back pocket, or to print this out and hand it to your players as like a job board that maybe they get to look at in a town and pick one or two of those quests to, you know, maybe earn some cash. There's a world overview so you can keep track of kind of the big broad picture. And then I also found the session summary very useful. I would usually have this up and jot things in as I was going, but I could also see this being something that perhaps you hand off to another player and they keep track of it, especially with this like party's next plans. And so that will make going from session to session a lot easier. I do like the PC NPC position area, especially if you end like at the beginning of an encounter or in the middle of an encounter. You can keep track of where people were on the map, so it's easier to set up for the next session. I actually use this PC NPC position quite a lot to just write in a few random things because I oftentimes didn't end in the middle of an encounter. I really like this world building kit. I think it's great for a game master. Also could be useful if you are a writer or creating a world for something else. All of the ones that I showed you are in the classic style. There is also a minimal style if you want a little bit of a cleaner style, but it still has that fun hand-drawn look to it. All of these come in both A4 and US sizing, so it's easy to print out. They're all form fillable, and there's a fun font that fits all of the fonts that come on the sheet if you want to keep it consistent, or you can print them out and hand write in them. So have you picked up the world building kit from RNW or any of the other kits on there? I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. And if there are any other like stationary stuff for tabletop RPGs, any other things on RNW site that you'd like to see me review or from another creator, let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for really great stationery. I love taking notes. I love having the things that kind of help prompt me as I'm creating a character or creating a world, so that I feel like prepped and ready for a session. Because just me personally, like I find playing the game a lot better when I feel like I know what I'm doing. I feel like I am prepared rather than like flying by the seat of my pants. I want to give a thanks to all of our patrons, especially Jonathan. If you want to support our channel, head on over to our Patreon page where you can get perks and join in on community discussions. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, share it with friends, especially a fellow game master or world builder. And we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye! RNW? RNW. That's the one problem about the name of the store. My dyslexia is always like, is it RNW? Is it WRWN?